Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to June on the Range, rootin' tootin' BookTube event created by Michael K. Vaughan to celebrate Westerns, which once upon a time were a staple of the publishing industry and are so no longer, uh, all throughout the month of June. And I know a lot of people on BookTube, a lot of people who make videos, a lot of people who watch videos, eagerly look forward to this event. I have been looking forward to it all year. Every time I encounter a cheap old 25-cent Western paperback at my bookshop, I have been getting them all, but not reading them, which is not usual for me. Usually I start steadily reading my way through the stuff I get at my used bookstore, but those I've been chucking on a pile in anticipation of June. And yet, I have not always been reading those. Once again, I have books calling to me, print books calling to me that I have not been reading for a couple of reasons. One is that it's a little bit like a death watch. A lot of those old paperbacks just will not survive a read. They won't survive being shoved in and out of a bag. They won't survive being rolled over on a bed or whatnot, or even just roughly handled. They won't survive it. They'll fall apart. It's always a sad thing to say goodbye to a book that you've been enjoying, or even that's been on your shelf for a long time. And the other reason is hand in hand with that, which is that reading on a tablet is so perfect. It is just so easy. It is the better mousetrap. It is the reading experience transformed into the 21st century. I know it hasn't caught on the way I would like it to, but nevertheless, that is true. And both of those things work on me when it's time to pick what book I'm going to read on my night's reading for June on the Range. There's one other factor, though, that is starting to play a role in my reading for BookTube events. This is a Saturday. I need to take this other element into firmly in hand, as it were. Oh, God. It's working on my brain. I need to control this other event, which is the algorithm. The Amazon algorithm has me firmly in its grip, and I need to stop that. I need to just break clear from that. But I haven't yet. I didn't last night. So the Western that I have to talk about today is not one of those old paperbacks. It is instead one of the only places where something like the Western sensibility survives in the present publishing environment. Westerns are still written. Actual Westerns are still written that take place from the decade after the end of the War of 1812 to the turn of the 20th century. So when there was an American frontier. The American frontier it's not necessary to write a Western, but it is really, really important. No convincing Western that I've ever read has been written after the frontier was closed, after there was no more frontier. So Westward expansion, that era of westward expansion here in the United States, that's the setting for the Western proper, and there are still some Westerns that are published in that time frame, in that but the Western sensibility, cowboys, the Wild West, all of that still survives mainly in romance novels. Once upon a time, it was far more popular even in romance novels than it is now, but that was because of a kind of romance that no one writes anymore, and no one could get published anymore. The savage Indian romance, where a beautiful, pure, naturally white Easterner or young woman from the East or from the Pennsylvania Valley or whatever, it falls under the sway of, or is hit on the head by, or is captured by a Comanche warrior, an Apache warrior, or something like that, and awakened by him. Those novels, they were written in profusion. And I'm not vilifying a previous generation. I'm from that generation. I'm not vilifying the ladies of a previous generation who read those novels avidly and loved them, talked about them amongst themselves. I'm not vilifying them, but our reading sensibility has changed. Our social sensibility has changed. It is now not possible, I don't think, for a normal, non-bigoted person to read one of those books comfortably. There are elements of them that can still be enjoyed, but the underlying assumptions of those books are pretty bigoted, and they have stopped being written as a result. Cassie Edwards and the like have stopped. Those books have stopped being written. Not that I'm accusing those authors of anything either. They were writing what the market was buying, and often doing quite a good job of it. Some of those novels are quite enjoyable to read, but they'll make your skin creep now, just a bit. But Westerns in romances still continue. It's not hard to avoid that sort of stuff, obviously, as we've all learned, right? In the last 10 years, 15 years, we've all learned this. We've all learned that you're not suddenly in a monochrome entertainment world. If you remove the bigotry, you can remove the bigotry and still have plenty of fun. But anyway, I will be getting to that subject in June on the Range, I promise. But I'm not doing it today. Today I'm reading a book that was suggested to me by the algorithm, by the Amazon algorithm. Not because it is a romance novel set in a Western setting. It's contemporary, but it's in the West, and it's got Cowboy in the title. It wasn't suggested to me because of June on the Range. The Amazon algorithm doesn't know about June on the Range. But it does know that the last few books that it's recommended to me have been M/M. Male on male, hot homosexual action. They've been gay novels. And it served me up one yesterday for last night's reading that was Cowboy themed. I'm sure it doesn't know about June on the Range, but I couldn't ignore it. You get a sign that clear from the reading gods, you can't ignore it. So I read this. This is by Lita Blake and Indra Vaughn. No relation, I'm sure, to Michael K. Vaughan, because I am almost positive that both of these people are bots. I'm almost positive this book was written. I don't know. This is 5 years old, so maybe it isn't written by AI, but it sure read like it was. This is Cowboy Seeks Husband. Why he is standing in the water like that, I don't know. What he's hoping to rope in the water like that, I don't know. But this is... Or maybe I do know. Maybe I don't want to know. This is a contemporary story. About a cowboy named Walker. That's got to be him on the cover because only one of our protagonists is a cowboy. And his ranch is failing. His cattle ranch is failing. He had massive storm damage. He's never managed to get himself back on his feet. He needs a windfall. And he just has no idea where a windfall would come from. His business was never rolling in dough to begin with. Friends of his suggest that he be the center, that he audition and become the center of a reality TV show called Queer Seeks Spouse. Because I think I'd hardly need to say this, but Walker is nuclear radioactively hot. With his shirt or without. He's a radioactively hot cowboy. And he reluctantly agrees. It's a payday. It's exactly the kind of windfall that he wants. And unbeknownst to him, our other main character is also facing problems. Money problems. Our other main character is Roan, R-O-A-N. And he is not a cowboy. He is probably the opposite of a cowboy, except he's moltenly hot. He has a mother who is afflicted with cancer. And she needs new experimental treatment that's too expensive. He also needs a windfall. And he decides to be a contestant, a so-called suitor on Queer Seeks Spouse. And that brings him into contact with Walker. And the storyline is, well, predictable. It's predictable. You've seen this kind. If you read romance novels, you've seen this kind of setup many, many times before. Not necessarily a reality TV show, but the two protagonists, or the woman and the man, or the both men or both women, being thrown together when they have anything but romance on their mind. Whether it's a fake marriage or a TV show or trapped in a snow chalet or whatnot, where they have anything but marriage on their mind. Neither Walker nor Roan is looking for romance. They're looking for money. Both of them are looking for money, for a payday. And then they find each other. And this is a romance novel, so it's not going to, as the horrible saying goes, subvert your expectations. I liked this. I did. I once again, I wish that our two authors, I I wish that they'd let go of the romance template just a bit and just trust your audience. Just trust your audience. I don't know of a diehard romance reader who is not willing to take a chance with their author if their author wants to do it. I know of almost none that are like that. I know of almost no romance authors who are timid. They might only read romances, but they are willing to give their author a bit of a lead. Do what you want and reel me back in. I'm willing to trust you enough to do that. I know of almost no romance readers who need their authors to be completely by the numbers. And the non-by-the-numbers thing here would have been for our authors to dig down a little deeper into the satire of the whole reality show world. Especially once Walker and Roan realized that their best bet for a payout is to start playing into the fakeness. That has the potential for some fantastic, biting satire that's... This book only feints in that direction. It never even really comes close. And the reason why is because the authors don't want to stray far from the romance, from the plot line of people who don't think they're going to fall in love, who grudgingly and slowly over many obstacles fall in love. That is a familiar romance pattern. And these authors don't trust their readers, or maybe they're not able themselves, maybe they don't have the skill themselves, but they don't trust their readers to care about anything else. When I think if a satire about queer Sikh spouse were done well, it could have been so much better in this book. It could have been so much more enjoyable. That part of it could have been. The relationship part is good anyway, and there are a couple of scenes at the end, mainly involving Roan, that are genuinely touching. So I did enjoy reading this. It doesn't have many of the aspects of what we consider the hallmarks of Westerns on June on the Range. But only because the algorithm had its way with me, and that stops today. That stops today. I am not going to listen to the algorithm tonight. I am not going to do that. But I did last night, and this was the result. Cowboy seeks husband. The title is a little bit on the ironic side, because the cowboy in question, Walker, is not seeking a husband. Definitely not. And Roan is not going on this show in order to win. He's going on as a suitor, but he wants the payday. He doesn't want to win. So the reality of their personal chemistry catching up with them, that is fairly well done. It wasn't a waste of time at all. It was not an hour that I'm asking for back. But as a pattern, I am laying down the law. I am putting my foot down. I am not doing this again. I am not going to let the algorithm run my life. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. I will see you next time with a good and proper Western. Thank you, Morty.